is time to break down episode 3 of season 3 of The Wheel of Time. I am a book reader. I've read these books many, many times. I am obsessed with The Wheel of Time. It is my main comfort read, but not even comfort read. It's just, I love these books so much. And I really, really, really love the show. This season so far is blowing me away. And I've said this in all of the other breakdowns, but I'll say it again in case someone's just coming in here new. When I'm watching the show, and especially for these breakdowns where I'm talking about it from my perspective as a book reader, when something is different from the books or changed or they've rearranged the order, the perspective that I have for the vast majority of changes is when I see a change, the alarm in my head does not go, different, I don't like it. The alarm in my head goes, ooh, different. Why? And I want to know, like, that, so it makes it more fun, and then I get to theorize and guess, like I did when I read the books for the first time. It's so fun. It makes it a much more fun experience. So that is the perspective that I have going in. But the other perspective I have, obviously, is as someone who has read all of the books and knows where things are going, so there are going to be spoilers. Spoilers abound in this video, all the way to the very, very, very end of the series. And I think in this video, even beyond the end of the series, I referenced something that was revealed a few years ago about something that happens after the books. So, if you do not want things spoiled for you, this is not a safe video at all. Beware. But if you are okay for spoilers, let's get into it.
Let's be nerdy with Let's Be Nerdy. Let's be nerdy with Let's Be Nerdy.
So until this exact moment, I wasn't sure what was going on because they were so convincing in the previous episode, specifically with his relationship with Elaine, that I was legitimately floored. I was so confused. We also, I don't know if you see him back there when she moves over here. Look, he's right there. Look at that. That's Samael! That's Samael! I desperately want to see him standing next to somebody else to compare height. If you don't know, like in the books, Samael is tall. He is taller than your average man. Sorry, there's loud traffic. But he is obsessed with height. He has this idea that, it's kind of true, I guess, in the real world, that people respect taller men. Now, he is a taller man, but Lews Therin's taller than him. And so he's just jealous of Lews Therin. And I believe that there are a few times where it's said that he uses a mask of mirrors to make himself appear slightly taller. So I very much want him, to be portrayed by a short king. And I think we got it. To be clear, it's not that being short is funny. It's funny because Samael is not. He's just obsessed with it in a way that is weird. If he was just a confident, the thing is he's not even short, but if he was a confident short man, then that would be cool. He's not, though. He is a tall man who is obsessed because he's just a tiny bit shorter than a taller man. These Forsaken, we got Ravin, and then Samael, and sorry, not Megiddian, not yet. Anyway, Lanfear, they're already squaring off with each other. And I've talked about this. I made an entire video about this. Basically this being the problem with the Side of the Dark, that they all do not have the same goal. Samael, in my head, like my particular headcanon, is the only one of all of them who has the same goal as the Dark One. But if the rest of them all had the same goal, they might have done better, but they don't. They all, individually want to be the leader, and they all want to run the world in their own specific way. And then Lanfear, just aside from all that, has her own goal, where she wants a relationship with whoever this life's version of the dragon is, and she will pursue that even if it means that her side, quote-unquote, loses, because her side is actually just her, and her goal of scoring some dragondy. Because of that, they can never work together, and it's why they fail. And you can see it already right here. I believe this is the first use of the word nameless in the show, which, yay for my friend who actually uses that term. He has another name, but in my brain, my friend Nameless is literally just Nameless. In my brain, his nickname is Nabes. And then I realized that doesn't sound like a nickname, but that's just his name, Nameless. He has a YouTube channel called Nameless. He's my co-host on the Tarvalon After Dark podcast, Nameless. Anyway, she calls Megiddian a coward, and look, I love Lanfear in the show. In the books, I don't. And it personally, kind of offended me when Brandon Sanderson made his reveal and it showed that Lanfear of all of the Forsaken is the one who came out best of all of the Forsaken, because in my brain that had been Megiddian, and Megiddian is my Forsaken, which is a weird thing to say, I guess, but I like up until that reveal I was like, yeah, no, Megiddian's the one. She won. Like, I mean, granted she was collared by the Shanchan, but I still I've had arguments with people about this, fully believe that it's not going to be hard for her to escape. She just needs a little bit of patience, which we all know Megiddian has. And, like, a lot of people think that she's broken and she won't do that, but I don't think she is. Anyway, so, all to say, I am taking offense on behalf of my headcanon of Megiddian at Show Lanfear calling her a coward. She's not a coward. She's risk-averse. That's the term I'm going to use for her. Yeah, we saw Ishamael on the posters, right? Or at least on one poster. So I think he has to be in this season. They're not just going to put him on the poster for no reason, right? Even without him on the poster, I didn't believe, like, if you watch my reactions and my breakdowns, I guess, from last season, I never thought he was dead. I thought it was an illusion. Like, he even hangs a lantern on it. He says, like, oh, you would believe so easy, or whatever. He calls something an illusion. But of course, you think he's talking about the illusion that Matt, like when Matt threw the spear, but I think the whole thing was an illusion, right? But anyway, basically the book story being what the book story is, I don't believe that he's dead. But of course, we also saw him on the poster. So my assumption is that Ishamael is nameless, like as Moradin is in the books. And that's why I guess the Great Lord is not talking to Lanfear, because he's still working with Ishamael, just, secretly. Okay, we get a mention of two of the other Forsaken here. She says others, and Raven says Grendel and Semirhage. Okay, I think we got confirmation last season that Grendel was going to be in it, but I think am I crazy? Did they mention Semirhage last season? I can't remember, but I got really excited. And nervous also, because Semirhage is scary. Like, I think I talked in my last breakdown about how at a certain point the Forsaken stopped feeling scary to me. Like, I just, another Forsaken, Balefire. Semirhage is the one exception. Semirhage shows up. Now, granted, we do beat her, but she shows up and hurts us bad. And I'm saying us, like the Team of the Light. She does something really fucked up and really scary, and it hurts. And then we kill her, and it's fine. But she's, like, of all of the Forsaken, she's the only one who, like, after maybe book 3, or, I don't know, 4? Did any of the Forsaken really scare me? I don't know. She's the only one who gave me, like, a legitimate jump scare. So I cannot wait to see what they do with her in the show, because all of these villains are better. And if Semirhage is scarier than she is in the books, then Raven is working with Megiddian. Okay, cool. I have no idea if this is book accurate, because in the books, as I mentioned, the Forsaken kind of, I was going to say stop being interesting. That's not true, actually. They're always interesting, but they stop being a threat. So I kind of stopped paying attention to them. And, like, their alliances shift constantly. So now when I'm reading, like, I'll know what's happening while I'm reading, but I kind of forget the second a specific alliance is done, just because they are constantly changing who they're allied with. It's just moving back and forth constantly. So this, maybe, I don't know. What the actual fuck was going on in the Age of Legends? Why are we... Stop touching people's faces! Forsaken! Dear God, of all the things you do, this is like the creepiest shit, and you all do it! What the hell? Has Lanfear touched anyone's face? Like, aside from Rand, because, like, they were smooching, and you touch people's faces when you're smooching. Has Lanfear touched a face? I don't know, maybe Lanfear's the only one who's normal and doesn't touch faces. Maybe that's why I like her. Hearing Verin talk about the Black Ajah, it's just so good. This is one of the best storylines in the books. Like, Verin's story is so good. And just seeing the groundwork that they're laying, like, I'm sure it's happening to all of us, but every single thing she does is just so fun to watch. I'm assuming that they've told Mira Sayal, I believe is how you pronounce her name. I'm assuming they've told her, because she's putting so much nuance into everything. Like, I can read all the layers into her performance, and it's just so good. Okay, see, like, here, Verin is sending Elaine and Nynaeve to, I was going to say novices. No, they are accepted, but they are still babies as far as the one power is concerned. They are not trained to interview Black Ajah sisters. Now, this is actually book accurate. That actually happens in the books. But in the books, the reason it happens is because they are in the Stone of Tyr. The only actual Aes Sedai there is Moiraine, and Moraine's busy. And so they are the only available people. And then Moiraine actually doesn't really care. She's going to send the Black Ajah to the tower, so she's kind of just letting them interview them for no reason. But here, okay, I think what's happening here is that Verin is doing what she can so that it looks like something from the outside, so that if anyone were to, say, be observing her to see if she is, I don't know, fulfilling some sort of obligations, she would look like she is, because it looks like she's setting them up to fail. Like, oh yes, you accepted, of course, yes, go interrogate these evil sisters who have done murders, you women who have no experience with this sort of thing at all. You are untrained girls. It's not going to look like she's expecting them to win. But Verin's always 12 steps ahead, right? I think she has been taking a measure of these girls, and she understands them and who they are, and is leaving them alone in order to let them find the truth, and doing it in a way that makes it like she washes her hands of it, so she cannot be accused of allowing them to find the truth. And we'll see some stuff later where I think she has laid a trail for them in order that they will find the truth. Because Verin is a goddess, and she's perfection, and we all love her and worship at her feet. Okay, this has nothing to do with the scene that's happening here. Like, this is them, and they're interviewing Joya, and they're trying to get it. But this is the first time I noticed it, so I'm going to tell you what I noticed right now. If you look, when Nynaeve comes around, she got a necklace on. She's got the ring on her necklace. It's the ring that Lan gave her, and it's amazing. And also notice that it's not nestled between her breasts, because that is ridiculous, Robert Jordan. Amiko, I think is how they say it in the show, here describes hearts. The way the Black Ajah is organized in the show does appear very consistent with the way it is in the books. You work in a heart of 3, and you each, like, every person knows one person from another heart, so that there is some sort of, like, interconnectedness, but no one person can cause the entire network to fall. It does still, in my mind, cause some questions about what happened in episode 1 of this season, where Liandrin, like, called people forth and, like, to help her, and they were all looking at each other before she did it. So it does appear that 4 women in the hall knew about each other, because they were, like, all making eyes at each other before she called them. It doesn't surprise me that Liandrin would have known that there were enough women in the hall to come to her aid, because I still do believe that Liandrin in the show is head of the Black Ajah, or at least head of the Black Ajah in the tower at the moment, but whatever. The fact that they were looking at each other, I'm still confused as to how that works with this description of hearts being groups of 3. So this is a change from the books. In the books, I can't remember which is which, actually, because after a while, like, the Black Ajah sisters really become interchangeable to me. The only one who I ever remember is Liandrin, and that's just because she's the one we met first, and she sold us, well, our girls into slavery and whatever. But the rest of them, I remember their names, and, like, I know that it's Joya and Amiko that get caught, but I couldn't tell you which one is which. But I do know one of them in that, like, in the Stone of Tyr, tells the truth that they're going to Tanchico, and the other one tells a lie about Mazrim Taim, or, well, probably a lie. Like, there is some debate about that maybe they were both telling the truth, but one of them was a more immediate truth than the other. I've heard that argument. I always took it as the one who wasn't stilled lied, and the one who was stilled told the truth. The difference here is that they're both lying. One of them is talking about how they are supposed to go to Kalendor, or to the Tyr, to try and steal Kalendor, and then this one, Joya here, is talking about going to Saldea to find Mazrim Taim, the false dragon. Okay, I think 2 things are happening here. The first one being something I talked about in my last breakdown, is that they are giving our characters a lot more agency. In the books, I think it's supposed to be like, this is Tavir, and it's kind of what's supposed to happen. They pick the right thing, but they kind of just go on their gut. Whereas here, we'll see it later, they actually do detective work. The Nynaeve Detectives Agency, which is what a lot of people in the fandom call the NDA, they actually do detective work, and they find where they're supposed to go. And it's not anything that these Black Ajah sisters said. So they did it on their own. They used their brains and their competence, and they found it. The other thing, I think, the reason to do this is to mention Kalendor and Tyr again. We need to mention it over and over again, so that name resonates in people's brains who haven't read the books, because I do think we are eventually going to go to Tyr, and it needs to sound important. I'm really not sure what's going on here. Elaida has tremors. This seems like a disease. And it also seems like it would be a disease that would be very easily dealt with in a world where we have the yellow Ajah, but Elaida also does not, and this seems very book accurate, seems like she doesn't seem like somebody who would seek out help from someone, especially someone outside of her Ajah. Now, the one thing I am going to say, if you notice, they're focusing on her arm, and you think, like, I'm looking at her arm trembling, but we're seeing a bracelet here on her arm. And I'm only mentioning that because that bracelet gets specifically mentioned later. So while I have no specifics on this, I think that bracelet and these tremors must be related in some way. I'm wondering if there is something like about, the cast member that we all thought that Shora was going to play was Cadsuane, and Cadsuane has that, I think it's called a paralysis net. I don't remember. But like basically she wears Terangrial as jewels. I'm wondering if that is what this is, but then I don't know why it would be causing tremors. And also, wouldn't the other Aes Sedai maybe know about it? I don't know. But like this, the only connection I'm making right now is something about these tremors is connected to that bracelet, because there's no reason to mention the bracelet later unless it's important. I noticed something while I was editing this video, and I wouldn't normally do this. I wouldn't normally add something after this video is already long enough, but there was something really, really important at the end that I have to add. So when at the very, very end of this video, you'll see I'm coming in to add something really important. So I thought I'd point out the thing that I noticed while editing this video. We're going to go up and we're going to take a look at this bracelet. When we get a look at it here, I'm going to pause. Look at that. That's a snake. There's a snake on this bracelet. I wouldn't normally, it's just a decoration. It's nothing. It's just whatever. But no, this show doesn't do things by accident. These costumes are very intricate. There's a snake on this bracelet, snakes and foxes. That's my theory now. Later on, you're going to hear me say I have no theories because I had no theories. But when editing the video, I suddenly was like, that's a snake. That's a snake. So now I have a theory that she went through the red door at some point, and maybe she got this bracelet somehow, and something about the bracelet, because we know that the gifts that I guess it's the snakes that gives gifts. I don't know. I always get them mixed up. That they come at a cost. This is not really all that important, but it just struck me as funny. Look at her bed. Red bed sheets. Because Elaida is nothing if not consistent. All right, we see a gray man pop his little head out there. I wonder if that's how do they say his Jayakim? Jayachim? I don't remember how they say his name in the show. But I wonder if it's him or if it's just another gray man. I'm fairly certain that if we were to go frame by frame before the gray man attack in episode 1, we would see the gray man who attacked them prior to the attack. And I am going to admit I did that. Not frame by frame, obviously that would take me forever, but I was trying to find him, and I thought I found one, and then I saw this, and he didn't look like this. He's okay. I'm going to show you what I thought I found. I wasn't going to do this because I'm a little embarrassed, and I don't think it's him. I don't think it's right, but I'll show you what I thought. And then when I saw this, I was like, well, no, he doesn't look like this at all. Okay, so this is it. It's going frame by frame, this guy. So this is just in the streets of Tar Valon and that guy. Because look, his face is a little bit gray, but he doesn't, there's also a person over there. You can sort of see here, I'll move myself. This person's face also looks gray, just the way the lighting is. But this person's face looks very gray. And so I thought maybe that was a gray man. So Elaine says to Nynaeve, you liked Liandrin. And I like this dynamic. It's so good. It's like Professor X and Magneto, right? They're one is a hero and one's a villain, but they are opponents who are antagonists to each other, but they actually like each other. They think the other is wrong, and in this case, very clearly, Liandrin is wrong, but it's just a good dynamic. There's a reason that it's used in so much media. It's compelling. It's so much more interesting if conflict between characters has deep roots, and this does. And I don't know. They've done so much with Liandrin to make her so interesting, and having her be such a foil for Nynaeve is I'm so excited by it. This is the first death ritual we are introduced to in this episode. I think we get 3, maybe 4 in this episode. So I'll talk about those as they come. But there just was a running theme. So this is painted in salt and chalk under, I guess, the bed where somebody dies, and then you'll see it later at the very end of the episode. You also paint one where they were born. It's supposed to help their soul find their way back to you. I am going to need people to stop shaming Queen Verin for enjoying sweet food. Like, Liandrin does it in season 2? Season 1? Season 2, I think. After she sells them, she comes back and she says something to Verin about, like, liking to eat. And here, Elaida's talking about sweet cakes in the kitchen. Stop it! Stop it. I know, Elaida, we're also, like, not meant to like you, but stop it! What does the show do? Verin is a goddess. We worship her. We do not mock her. Elaida here says that any sister has a right to request a private audience with the Amyrlin seat, and I am struggling again to remember what is book canon, because of course they say no, it's not a sister, it's a sitter who has a right to request a private audience. But I believe in the book that any woman has a right to request a private audience with the queen, or with the queen, with the Amyrlin seat. Your Majesty, I'm now mad. Anyway, that's how Min got in to meet with Siuan in, I believe, The Dragon Reborn. She comes as a woman who just requests her and insists on her right to meet privately with the Amyrlin. And like, this is something that everyone is allowed to do. Every woman, I think. I don't think any men can do it, but every woman is allowed. But most people don't do, because they're, intimidated by the Amyrlin. So, yeah, I don't know, though, like, within the sitters and sisters in the hall, if this is a change in canon or not. Tell me in the comments if you know. This is probably the most book-accurate, representation of Verin I've seen so far. The way she's like, is that right? Is that right, Liana? Like, it's just, she knows she's right, and she's just being savvy here, and then she sort of distracts from her obvious knowledge here by acting like Verin. It's amazing. It's adorable, and she's so good. She's representing her so well. I can see, like, the layers in her performance. I love it. So I can't actually remember if I left this in my reaction or not. Like, I might have removed it. But this is a change in canon here. It's an insignificant change that I don't care about. But, of course, my brain being what it is, like, when something is different, my brain highlights it. So the difference here is that, apparently, anybody can know who the highest of the Red Ajah is. And we know that because Elaida comes in here with a novice and calls Sutama here highest. In the books, it's like, is it every Ajah? I know the Reds, but I think every Ajah keeps secret who the head of their Ajah is. So, like, everybody knows the sitters, but for some reason, they keep secret who the head of their Ajah is. And sometimes even I believe some of them even keep the names of the head of their Ajah secret. I don't know why. It's just ridiculous politics within the tower. Like I said, it's not a change I care about, but I'm just pointing it out because it was something that my brain went, oh, Elaida here offering gifts to everyone. This is another thing like that scene, those scenes with Matt with the horn, that feels book accurate in a weird way, because it's not book accurate, but it feels accurate to her character. She has a really, really bad read on Sutama here, the leader of the Red Ajah. She thinks she can win her over with jewelry because Elaida could probably be won over with jewelry. She is, I would say, in the purest sense of the word, very self-centered, in that she believes what will work for her will work for everyone. She would love this type of jewelry. She would love a gift of jewels. And so she presents it to Sutama, who rejects it quite harshly. She's like, too gaudy for me. It would suit you. That's so catty. That is so catty. And then Elaida immediately gets on her bullshit about capturing and caging Rand. Of course, the thing is, in the show, it's not as much like a bullshit mission as it is in the books, because in the show they keep saying that this is official tower policy, that they are supposed to cage and control the dragon. They are duty bound to do this. So it actually makes it seem like it makes Elaida seem more reasonable than she does in the books. Because in the books, when she proposes that plan, I don't think anybody reading the books goes, oh, okay, yeah, that's understandable. I guess that's logical. Yeah, sure, you do it. Everybody reads that and goes, what the fuck, Elaida, you're insane. Why would you think this is going to work? It's a dumb idea. like, you can maybe understand why she would think it would work for like half a second, but then she thought for a couple of seconds she would be like, no, there's no way that would work. It's so dumb. But in the show, because they've made it the official policy of the tower, then her saying, no, we need to actually do what our policy states, she seems less insane. I think much like what they've done with Liandrin, this is going to make Elaida more compelling, because she is going to seem a lot less unreasonable. She's going to seem more reasonable. There was a much easier way to say that, Jenny. Wow. So here we get a slight change in well, actually, it's probably a big change in canon if you're really into the metaphysics of the world of dreams. But the idea here is that Egwene accidentally entered someone else's dream. That would not happen in the book canon. In the book canon, it's actually quite complicated. There's Tel'aran'rhiod, which is the world of dreams, and then there are other people's dreams, and then there's like a space in between other people's dreams. Those are three separate things. And then even within Tel'aran'rhiod, you can make your own pocket of dreams. Like, it sounds really, really confusing, and I can get why in the show they would probably want to simplify it to just the world of dreams. It's the world of dreams, and like everybody can like maybe touch the world of dreams, but only dream walkers can go into the world of dreams, and maybe they'll like make it like your dream walkers' dreams are in the world of dreams or something like that. I don't know, because when I try to explain it, it gets confusing. Tel'aran'rhiod is one thing. You can make pockets of Tel'aran'rhiod, and then certain people can control Tel'aran'rhiod, but then other people's dreams are separate things. And if you enter, like, there's just so many layers to it. So it's like, it's a world building change that it probably like won't affect the story very much. I'm not upset about the change at all. It's just Egwene accidentally entering, like she says, she entered my dream. You were in my dream, not we both met in Tel'aran'rhiod. It's different. It's just different. So I think they're setting up the Shido. Like here, they mentioned the Shido are the only ones who would attack the Tuathon to be the bad guys, right? They're the bad guys within the Aiel. They're the Coplans and the Congers of the Two Rivers. The Shido are that for the Aiel. I'm trying to think if there's ever a good Shido that we meet. Like, even, during the Shido plotline, the ones we're supposed to like among the Shido, like the Rolans, who I hate, but whatever, they are not Shido. They are the brotherless among the Shido. So the ones that are supposedly the good Shido are not actually Shido. So I don't know if there's ever a single Shido that we're supposed to like in the books. So they're just setting this up so that I think like we'll have heard that name, and when we meet them and then they're like shady, we'll all go, oh yeah, we heard about the Shido. They murdered some Tuathon back there. I think I said this in my reaction, but I just thought it was interesting to note that, like, there's certain people here who have no concern. They don't care about burying the Tuathon at all, but Bear does, and Rhuarc does. And they're the ones who would have been to Rhuidean, so they would understand their link with the Tuathon and have respect for them in a way that those who haven't been, like, especially the rest of the Aiel, they literally call the Tuathons the lost ones, and they would never want to interact with or touch them or anything like that. So it was notable to me that you see this look between Bear and Rhuarc of, no, these people deserve our respect, and we will bury them. I'm just realizing, here we get them burying them with rocks. This will be another death ritual. We get another death ritual. So I think there might be 5 death rituals in this episode. Wow. Speaking of death rituals, here we go. This was the next one I thought I was going to talk about until I just thought of that one with the rocks. Perrin burying his ring. Yay. This is better than putting it out to sea or whatever he was going to do last season. He brought it home and he's burying it by your tree. And, I mean, yeah, there he is. It's beautiful. This is in the books. They tell Perrin that, because his family was killed before he arrived in the village, that they buried them under apple blossoms, and then Loyal offers to sing to the trees, and it's so beautiful. Like, that's the moment I cry. I start to cry every single time. But yeah, okay, here is death ritual, I guess, number 3, and then we're gonna get death ritual number 4. Here we go. Death ritual number 4. This one also, like, these are beautiful. All of these are, I mean, the rocks is very pragmatic, but it's just, there's something beautiful in death rituals, to be honest. And this one, like, putting their ashes and clay, and, like, she's painted them like tears on her face. Aw. Dain and Chiad trying to get Loyal to play Maiden's Kiss. Yes! Yes, they are correct. Loyal is a snack. He is a snack. You, like, don't tell me that you would not have women throwing themselves at Loyal constantly. I know he's another species, but look, I've met humans. I know humans. You cannot tell me that humans would not want to ride that. Like, he is a large, cuddly bear who's also a beast. And I know, I have seen what humans want to fuck and they are correct. This is the correct response to Loyal. Here is the final, maybe, death ritual in this episode. Unless, like, another one surprises me later. I'm like, oh, is that a death ritual too? They come up to him, and I actually cut it out of the shot, but you could see he's rubbing something onto a sword, and there's, like, dirt. It looks stained at the bottom, and they're like, enough with the dirty sword. And he says, it's not dirt, it's the blood of the only man I've ever loved. I think he is rubbing the blood into the blade, and that is this death ritual with Ivan. Gosh, there's just a lot. There's a lot going on in this episode. Look! Did you see her? That's Fail. Hi! Hi, Fail! That's literally all I have to say about this. I'm just so excited to see you. I need the smooching to start immediately, please. Perrin walks up, and Fail goes, who are you? And I can't actually do her accent, but I love it. I love the way she says his name. Perrin oh, it's so good. I love the way she says his name. But she says this in the Wine Spring Inn, and it just, like, rolled my brain back to episode 1 of season 1, where Lan walks in, and Nynaeve walks up to him and is like, name yourself, stranger. What is it with all the meet cutes that happen in the Wine Spring Inn? Maybe I need to go there. So this is Lord Luke. And I already don't like him. I don't like him. He's got a face I want to punch. So I'm assuming he's going to be Slayer. I mean, if he's not Slayer, that, like, he's going to be a villain if he's not Slayer. So, like, I don't know. They wouldn't name somebody Lord Luke in a show like this if they were just going to have him be, like, a random dude. So I think he is going to be a villain. As I mentioned in my last video, thanks to Rob and people in my theory videos before the season came out, I have this new theory. Well, it's not a new theory, but it's that he is Slayer and he is mixed with Padan Fain. Because we are going to see Padan Fain, and that they came here through the ways. And that's my new theory. But I'm very curious to see what they do with him, because if they do that, Slayer is, like, the things that are really mushy magic-wise, Slayer is probably the mushiest. Two people met, and then the Dark One was just like, how about if you two kiss? Wait, whoops, now you're one person, kind of. Like, it was just so... It's so mushy and so weird. And, yeah. So, I don't know what they're going to do with it. I'm fascinated and curious to see if they do it. And if they do it, how. The other thing to note here, Perrin asks about where I think the coffins are. And Lord Luke tries to deflect, and Fael immediately is like, oh, I'll tell you exactly where they are right now. And I love this, because it shows... She is not allied with Lord Luke. She's not allied with him at all. As she even says later, they're just together sort of by chance, I guess, because they're both officially hunters for the horn. But you can also see she's immediately interested in Perrin, and guess trying to ally herself more with his side. It's again, the correct response to Perrin. People are having correct responses. Granted, lesbian, this would not be my response, but I'm looking at this and I know that is a correct response when you meet this boy. Yes, immediately trust him. Immediately. Thank you. Natty and the girls in the cage. This is book canon. Natty Coffin and Matt's sisters, one of whom is named Bode, and the other one has a name, and I don't remember what it is. But okay, they do get caught in the books and get rescued by Perrin et al. So I'm assuming that's where we're going here. But I also am wondering if the prediction by Ali from the Wheel Takes podcast is going to happen. She predicted that this season we're going to see a bit of a redemption arc from Natty, where in season 1, she was just a terrible mother. And in season 2, we only saw her in Nynaeve's vision, but she was not great in Nynaeve's vision. And so maybe here we're going to see the true mettle that she has, and maybe she will help free herself somehow. I don't know. I'm curious. I'm looking forward to what we get from her. Valda here wants to put the people of the Two Rivers to the question, and Dain Bornholt is holding him off. We are getting a villain here who has a code of honor that they will not cross, and that I think at a certain point we are going to see him cross it. And yeah, it's just interesting what we're getting here from Dain, because he's doing all of this in order to lure Perrin out. In the books, Dain Bornholt hates Perrin because he believes he killed his father, which he didn't do. But in the show, he knows Perrin killed his dad because he watched it happen. And I'm going to get some flack for this. But he watched Perrin kill his dad after his dad killed a wolf that was attacking one of his, what do you call it? Army buddies. I don't know. There's a word for that. I'm not sure what it's called. I was about to say co-workers, and I realized I don't think you call your fellow army men co-workers. Sorry. But I'm sorry. If a wild, what to you looks like a wild animal is attacking your... I keep hoping that I'm going to find the word, and the word is not coming to me. But if a wild animal is attacking somebody that you are fighting beside, it doesn't... As far as Dain Bornholt knows, Perrin is just a crazy person who killed his father in front of him with an axe. And I love Hopper. I don't want Hopper to have died. Like, I knew he had to because that was in the books. But I understand his rage here. There's no way, and like, until you somehow are convinced that wolves are sentient, like, beings like humans in this universe, which there's no reason for him to know. All he knows is that a wolf was attacking Volda, and my father protected the soldier Volda, and then Perrin got real mad and killed him. Like, that's all he knows. He doesn't know that Hopper was his friend. Like, he doesn't even know if Hopper was his pet. He has nothing. He knows no information here. So, right now, his response is actually incredibly reasonable. And then I think at a certain point we're going to see him get pushed across a line where it's going to become unreasonable. I assume that's where we're heading. So I'm looking forward to it. Because this actor is bringing really interesting things to this role. Both of them are, but right now, Volda's just unlikable. And I am sympathizing a bit with Dain. I should also mention, in the books, this harrying of the two rivers in order to lure the Verin is not done by Dain Bornholt. It's done by Padan Fain. Padan Fain has basically directed everybody down here because he's trying to pull Rand in, because he hates Rand so much because of what the Dark One did to him on behalf of trying to get him to capture Rand. So Padan Fain, so far we haven't seen. He's going to show up here. I know he is because on one of the posters he was wearing a White Cloak's uniform. So he's going to show up among this group somehow, and I'm just curious, like, is he already here, or when or how is he going to pop up? Matt not saying thank you to Min. I cracked up laughing here when I watched this the first time, because it was just, I don't know if they intended it this way, but it feels like a good reversal of that plot point from The Dragon Reborn that has launched a million Reddit threads of everybody being really, really mad at the girls for not saying thank you to Matt for saving them from the dungeons in the Stone of Tyr. This, obviously, not quite as high stakes because, like, it's not like Matt is locked in a dungeon now and Min fought through a fortress of soldiers in order to get to him, but you know, she did refuse something that she really wanted in order to help him, and it just struck me as funny, like, just calling it out, like, you want to thank you? I don't know if that's what they intended, but it, you know, that's what it reminded me of. So, this is not a book nerd thought, like, this is not a Wheel of Time book nerd thought, this was just a nerdy thought I had. How are they looking up this image? How? It's an image. It's something that they saw. You can't take a picture of it. You're not doing reverse image search. How do you, like, what, they wouldn't even have known what kind of image it was. Like, if you looked at it and knew that it was a death ritual, then you would maybe go look among the books about death rituals or something, but they didn't know anything. I get, like, maybe Nynaeve inferred that it was a death ritual because the dude was really old, but I don't know. I don't know. How do you look up an image in a world where, like, it's, I don't know. I will say, I don't know if, like, even if I left this section in the reaction or not, but I know that when this happened the first time, there was a couple of, maybe like a minute, where I wasn't paying attention to the show because that's what I was thinking. I was just like, how would you do that? How would you look up an image? I don't understand. Again, though, I'm just loving this. I'm loving how they put this together. Like, aside from the whole, you know, how do you look up an image thing, I love that they did the detecting and they were able to put their clues together and come up with Tanchico. I feel really happy and proud of them for their competence here. It's great. So these are Verin's sketches of the objects that the Black Ajah stole here. And I don't know, did you catch what was on the pile there? That's the dream ring. That has to be the dream ring. Now, the dream ring was not highlighted. Like, it was not one of the ones that we all saw. The rest of them in that image we saw. We saw that dice. We saw, let's see, there's that rod. I think that might be the balefire rod. But this ring was not focused on. I think I caught it in the whatever the shots. It was above the statue of the unclothed woman, that I think is another dream terangrial. But yeah, so Verin is highlighting this because she has drawn other images of things that were stolen from the Black Tower. They found them over here. Look, they're looking here at an image of the sad bracelet here. But when they first go over there, there's another image of the dream ring. Did you catch it? It was the first thing on that pile. She drew it twice. Everything else is only drawn once. And I know this is very silly, but that is something that Verin would do. Like, this is her thinking 10 steps ahead. I'm going to make sure they pay attention to this ring. Nothing else is drawn twice. Everything else is only drawn one time, at least that I can see. Maybe other people have paid more attention to this and are more visually inclined than me, but the fact that she's highlighted it here, that makes sense to me. That just seems to me her pointing them in the right direction of this is the ring. Now, that does make me wonder, was the ring stolen? Because I was still, like, I had all my fingers crossed that it hadn't been stolen and that it was somehow going to get into their hands and we could get them, like, having their meetings in Teleron Riyadh. The fact that it's there and it's on 2 different pieces of paper in 2 different spots, like locations, I think we are going to see it. I just don't know how. Like, if they took it, if the Black Ajah sisters took it, then we're going to end up recovering it. I also still have this theory that at some point they're going to recover that dice terangrial, which, okay, that dice terangrial gets described and then we never see it again. But I'm sure I'm not the only person who heard about that dice terangrial and in my brain have always thought of it as Matt's terangrial, even though he never interacts with it ever. So I have it in my brain that, at some point in the show, he's going to interact with the dice terangrial and that's how he's going to get his luck power somehow. So yeah, but I don't know. What do you think? How do you think they're going to get the dream terangrial? Because I think we're going to get it. There's no other reason I can think of for it to be there twice. Like every other thing in there, I recognize from that room. The dream terangrial was very blurry, and I saw it. But anyway, I don't know. I've talked about this too much. What do you think? I'm also just going to point out that yes, this is confirming that we're right. We get further confirmation of this later on in the episode, but confirming that all of us were right about this being like that armband being part of the sad, what in the fandom is known as the sad bracelets. It's basically a damane collar for men. Nynaeve here spots the gray man. Very good, Nynaeve. I don't know how she spotted. I mean, it moves, so I guess that's how she spotted it, but I don't know how with the gray man's power she spotted it, so I'm just going to say ta'veren, because that is book canon. In the books, they don't see the gray man, but the gray man shoots, and I think it's like, I would say, I mean, okay, I suppose in the books, canonically, they're not ta'veren. But ta'veren would need them to survive. Like, the pattern needs them to survive. So it's still ta'veren in a weird way in my brain. But they move just in time that the arrow that he shoots misses. I just had to note this because it cracks me up. Elaine gets up here, and you notice what she's doing? She's holding her head. She's holding her head. Elaine, head trauma. She gets hit in the head a lot in the books. And she is very, very, very lucky that she travels with the world's best healer. Because the amount of head trauma... So, in the books, this is Shiriam, not Verin. But it still works. And those of us who have read the books know why. I know this is a full spoiler video, but I don't need to worry about that. I don't need to be coy. But this one particular thing, I think all of us are very, very nervous about spoiling for people because it's like one of the best reveals ever. But my guess is that we're not going to see Shiriam this season just because she's not in this particular scene. And I would guess it's just a matter of you can really only afford so many actors per season. And like having somebody come in just for one scene, I think it's the same reason that we didn't get Elaine in season 1 is just because, we would need her for 1 episode and then need her to be available in 2 years when we're ready to film the next season. Like, you can't really do that until, you can't, actors, it's their job, right? So you need them to be able to live their lives. So I think that's why this was switched. I don't think this was switched for another reason. I think it was just a case of, oh, this actually fits because of reasons, and that way we don't have to get another actor in to film just one scene. But other than it being Verin and not Sheriam, it's virtually identical to the books. They see the gray man, they dismiss the girls, they don't mention the stabbing, and that makes Nynaeve and Elaine, nervous and realize that they really need to get a shift on. It is notable that Verin knows what gray men are. Moiraine did not. Now, this could just be Brown Ajah stuff, because the Brown Ajah know things that other people don't know, because literally their lives and their jobs are research and knowledge. But I just think that it's interesting that Verin knows what this creature is, whereas show canon Moiraine had no idea. She described a gray man to Lanfear, and it was a mystery to her. I'm not going to gush about this establishing shot as much as I do about the Tarvalin ones, just because, Tarvalin is more important than Tanchico, but still, look at it. It's so pretty. I love seeing this world. It's so good. Liandrin's accent changes here. Normally, I don't know British accents, very well. I couldn't name it, so I don't know if she uses, RP most of the time, but she sounds very formal British to me, the kind of, I don't know, what I think of as news, which I think is RP, but she sounds very formal. And then here, she sounds almost northern, and I loved that, because that is one of the few things I remember about Liandrin, specifically her personality. When she goes to Tanchico, when she has these moments of stress, especially when she's yelling at the help, she will revert to the Tanchico dialect. And because you're actually in her perspective, she thinks about how embarrassed she is about that, how she worked so hard. It's why she turned to the black. She was trying so hard to get out of what she thought of as a low-class life. Now, we can't really do that in the show because, again, that's one of the differences in the medium. We can't be in somebody's head and feel their shame in their head when their accent changes. So this, to me, just feels like an Easter egg. It's a nod to that part of her character in the books. She's home, and her accent changes, and I love it. This world, not a matriarchy. Even in the books, it's not a matriarchy, no matter what people say. Even Robert Jordan, literally the author and the creator of this world, never, he said, it was not a matriarchy. I believe only Farmadding was supposed to come across as a matriarchy. He was aiming for equality. It's rather telling that a bunch of people saw equality and thought that it was a matriarchy. It's that whole saying about when you're used to privilege and you get equality, you suddenly think you're being discriminated against, and it's not. Anyway, it strikes me as hilarious. But the show is slamming that home. This is not how a matriarchy would work. This sort of bullshit would not happen in a matriarchy. It shouldn't be happening anywhere, ever. Ew. And then we get to see Liandrin kill this dude, and it's perfectly justifiable and incredibly satisfying, and I'm happy with it. And then the show shows us his still beating heart in her hands, and I just go, okay, wait. Okay. I was with you, Liandrin, up until this moment, and then it was just okay. It was a bit excessive. But I still, and much like with Renna, I guess, I don't begrudge her this action because that guy deserved to die. And then we get Naomi doing her memory control trick. And now we've actually seen Gabriel Ravin do this to much greater effect than she is able to do. He doesn't seem to, nobody's bleeding from the nose and they don't turn into vegetables afterwards. So this is showing the power levels of the Aes Sedai today and the power users of the Age of Legend, basically the Forsaken. The other thing, though, that I'm hoping is coming across here to those who haven't read the books is that not every Aes Sedai can do everything. Liandrin passes this off to Naomi because Liandrin herself can't do this. Not all the Aes Sedai know how to heal. Not all the Aes Sedai know how to do memory stuff. Or I don't know what other weaves we're aware of. Fighting weaves, I guess. They would all have different fighting weaves and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that comes across because I don't know if this will happen, but there are moments in the books that I can think of where somebody is injured and you think, if you don't know that not all the Aes Sedai can heal, you would think, oh, well, they have an Aes Sedai there, so they'll be fine. And no, because the Aes Sedai they have with them doesn't know healing weaves. So I'm hoping that information is getting across to non-book readers. Elaida here says that a blue sister once gave her a good piece of advice to find out what servants have been sent to your room? And I can't help it. I can't help but wonder if that blue sister was Moraine. Because in season 1, Moraine told a story about a red sister, and that sister was Elaida. So I just think it would be a cool way of rhyming those two scenes. I don't know if I ever managed, like, in my brain while reading the books to connect the viewings that Min has with, like, the power of foretelling, like, in, basically Elaida, because she's the main Aes Sedai we know who has foretelling. I must have, though, because, like, it's, when I, like, think of the different ways that they approach their powers, I compare them quite, like, it makes sense to me that Elaida, because her foretellings, as she says, like, in this scene, they're not very common, she hasn't had as much experience with them. So she still thinks of the foretelling as giving her power. Like, she talks about how in the Queendom of Andor, she got a foretelling that the Andor would be important, and so she helped Morghese win the Succession War. Basically, she was like, oh, they're going to be important. I'm going to pick who wins. And so she tried to steer the ship instead of doing what Min would do in that situation, because Min has had so much experience with her foretellings to know that, no, foretelling is like a viewing just tells you what's going to happen. You literally have no power. Once, like, knowledge, like they say knowledge is power, but Min's power kind of proves that it isn't. Because it's just, if I try to do something, it's still going to happen or not going to happen. Like, I whatever. But it just strikes me as an interesting thing how different the way they view their powers are. Yeah, here she talks about it. I just want to highlight this because she says the Queendom of Andor. And again, why did I never think of that? Of course it's a queendom. They never had a king. Of course it's a queendom. But yeah, so she picked who won and then steered the ship. And it's like, I feel like what happened with Elaida is that she realized she had this power and figured that the pattern had chosen her because it's not a common power. And so maybe, like, she, in her brain, her logic is, I have an ability that not very many people have. Why would the pattern have given it to me? The pattern must want me to have power. Like, the pattern must, like, it's like she thinks the pattern wants her to be Verin, and she's forcing herself into that role. And it's one of her major character flaws. So here, she fidgets with the bracelet, and then Min calls it out and asks if it's part of her foretelling. So the fact that they've called it out says to me that it must be important and it must have some significance. Like, again, I'll just say this, shows have to be economical. It's the same reason I think that we must, at some point, they must plan for us to see a setting, because otherwise, why would we take time that could be used for other things to talk about Loial's longing? Why are we taking time in this scene to highlight this bracelet? Why did they focus on it when her hand was shaking? I have no idea. Like I said, the best I can do is it a Terangrial? I don't know. Bear explains the thing that I should have figured out. That the bruises were from Lanfear, and that Lanfear, obviously, like, it has to be from somebody alive, because, like, just a dream can't do this to you, right? So all that trauma that she's experiencing in her dreams is Lanfear's doing. I figured this out last episode, but I should have known it earlier because I have read these books and I am ashamed. She also is explaining here about how if you take hurts in the dream, then it's by another dream walker. They're doing such a good job. I don't know what else to say about this. I feel like they're doing a lot of really good things with world building and explaining them in ways that feel organic and natural and not like exposition scenes. So it's just done very deftly. Good job, show. I'm curious if I'm alone in this. I am certain that Lanfear is playing him here. I don't think she wants to give up her oaths to the Great Lord. I don't think she cares about her oaths, to be honest. I really don't. I think she just wants to get what she wants in life. But I think she is fully playing Rand here. She's trying to get him to think, I can save her, I can fix her. She's trying to get him on her side. Her goals are just always selfish, I think. I think that is, she's one of the most purely selfish characters. And in that, she's predictable, but also unpredictable in some ways, because not everybody can understand what it is that she wants. And what she wants does change a little bit throughout the story, I think. The other thing she talks about how there is a terangrial, I think, is it terangrial or sarangrial? We'll see when it comes up here in the subtitles, that is stronger than Kalendor. It's a terangrial for women called the Sakarnen, and I went and looked that up. It's, Sakarnen, there it is. It's in the books, the Sakarnen exists, but it's a terangrial for men, or a sarangrial, I think, for men. And it's used by Demandred. It's what he gets when he goes and he's like in Shara and stuff. And is it Mazrim Taim? I can't remember. Somebody thinks that it has a flaw in that it causes the user, it's very, very powerful, but it causes the user to become incredibly drained. So when I looked that up, I was trying to think, because I do not trust Lanfear. Like, I love the way she's being portrayed. Love her, love her. But I do not trust her. And I think that this is all a setup. So I was thinking, like, what is this? Like, why are they using this word, for example? They're not, like, they could have called it anything, but they are picking an actual thing that exists from the books. And if you look it up, there are people who believe it has this flaw. I wonder if she is giving Lanfear is giving this information to Rand, hoping that he will pass this on to Moraine, and then that will be that thing that we saw in the trailer, that Moraine, we saw her holding this glowing ball. So it won't be the Choden ball. It'll be a completely different thing. It'll be the Sakarnen whatever thing, which, granted, like, it's for Saidin, not Saidar, but it'll be for, I guess, women here. And she'll use it, and then it will render her really, really weak. Because there's no other reason to name it that. Anyway, that's just a wild theory. I literally, like, that's not even in my notes. I looked that up right before filming this video, so I don't know. So that's according to the WoT Wiki. It's not something I remember at all. I do not remember the names of all the terangrials, so I had to Google it. I was like, did they make this up for the show? No, they didn't? Okay, then why did they pick that? But yeah, what I'm really curious about, though, is to know, am I alone? Do people believe that she's being sincere here or not? I just inherently do not trust this woman. Not Natasha O'Keefe. Lanfear. I mean Lanfear. I do not trust Lanfear. They call Moraine. They call her child. And she gets so affronted. Look at this. She's like, what the fuck? Just love it. It's like, oh my god. Did I even say it? I think I might have said this in my reaction. Like, oh, stings, doesn't it, Moraine? Because Moraine, that was the first thing she called Nynaeve, and it, like, immediately got Nynaeve's back up, because that's the thing she's sensitive about, how young she looks. Like, there's a passage later on in the books where Nynaeve learns about slowing. And, like, she should have learned it sooner, but because of her block and everything, she didn't go to a lot of classes. Also because they immediately made her go through the arches, so she didn't get to go to a lot of novice classes. She didn't learn that Aes Sedai age slower. And there's a moment in the books where she's just like, what? What the fuck? No, I'm never gonna look my age. And she was so upset because nobody respects her because she looks younger than she is. And so, anyway, that's a whole other thing. I could talk about Nynaeve. Everything diverts my thoughts to Nynaeve. But this just struck me as odd. I was like, oh yeah, stop calling people child. They don't like it. Don't do that to Nynaeve again. Lan is being a total bro here, and I love it. He's wingmanning her so hard. It's great. I love their friendship so much. I missed it last season. Their friendship is wonderful. And, you know, it's something we don't actually see a lot of in media. We see a lot of friendships between gay men and straight women. We don't see a lot of friendships between straight men and gay women. Like, why don't we get that? I need more of that. Hello, media, please give me more of that. Thank you. Excuse me, Moraine. Ma'am, you are married. Stop making eyes at this lady. Stop it. Stop it. That's all I had to say. That was a flirty look. We saw it in the trailer, and I was all like, no, it's not a flirty look. Stop it. She's married. And then you see it, and no, it is a flirty look. Ma'am, you're married. You have a wife. So this is a very small change to canon. Melindra, in the books, she is of the Jumai sept of the Shido Aiel, I believe. Here she is the Chumai sept of the Tardad Aiel. So I think what they've done is take her out of the Shidos, because they are making the Shido, like, very, very villainous. Like, or at least for us to see the Shido and immediately be suspicious. When we meet Melindra in the books, while we've had people talk bad about the Shido, they have not become the looming villains yet. So you don't necessarily suspect her. But the show does not have that much time, basically. So I think that's why they've made this small change, so that when, I mean, it was already going to be a shock. You know, she's a Malkiri. We're obviously inclined to like her because she's one of Lan's people, but it just makes it even more of a shock if she's not a member of the Shida. Oh, I should also point out, this is obviously another huge change to canon. Sorry, I was talking about the tiny change to canon of her going from the Jumai to the Chumai in different septs. But she's a Malkiri refugee. That is not the case in the books at all. She's just a regular Aiel. I almost didn't talk about this actually because I talked about this so much prior when I was on the Malkir talks. So I think this is a really cool idea, the idea of Malkiri refugees. In the books, there are Malkiri people just spread out, but they are all in the borderlands. We don't really ever meet any Malkiri anywhere else. And I do like the idea of there being refugees from other people among the Aiel, because A, that makes Tigraine, Shail, less, like, it won't be as strange that she came in amongst them. I mean, granted, it made it sort of special that she did that, but it also just makes the Aiel less racist, just because that is one of their flaws. Just as a people group, they are really, really racist. And, like, they're racist to the point, I've been watching some reactions from first-time, like, people who haven't read the books, and that's just a thing that they're saying. It's like, they seem a little racist. I'm like, yeah, you're picking up what they're putting down there. The Aiel, a little racist. No, Melindra, get these words out of your mouth. Those are not your words. Those are Nynaeve's words. I feel really bad, actually. I was on Malkir Talks live stream. I've talked about it a lot now. Right after the episodes aired, and somebody brought this scene up as a scene that, like, this dialogue they loved, and I immediately was like, no, I hated that, and it was because of this reason. And I realized that I came across really aggressive, and I feel really bad about it afterwards. But this is, like, the reason I didn't like it is because that's one of Nynaeve's best speeches, and it's, like, so good, and everybody loves it. And now the first time it's been heard is gonna be out of Melindra's mouth, and she bad, and Nynaeve's good, and don't take Nynaeve's words. Get those words out of your mouth. Where's Will Smith? Get those words out of your mouth. Daisy Conger and Sen Bui. Daisy Conger yelling at Sen Bui. It's great. I love it because I love both of those characters, and yeah, I'm glad you didn't die in the first episode. It's great. They just add flavor to the world. Yay! Is this the first time I've seen Loyal's ears? Because for some reason, this shot really stuck out to me. I was like, look at his ears. They're not book canon. In the book canon, he has, like, cat ears. They're, like, above his head, and they move when he gets, like, anxious and stuff. But I don't know. Is this the first time I saw his ears? Here, Maxim asks Alana why she won't turn off the bond. This is obviously a follow-up to that conversation between Maxim and Lan last season, where he explained to Lan how they only have the bond open, or on, I should say, during battles and, of course, sex. So she is already crossing his boundaries. And I think we are going to see, and we are currently seeing, her devolution, where she is going to devolve to the point where she's, going to do the thing that we're all going to feel really hurt by, because we all like show Alana. Even though, like, in the books, if you, like, haven't read the books, which you shouldn't be watching this video if you haven't, but if you haven't, Alana is like a nothing character, and then she suddenly does something that horrifies everybody, and they're, like, building to it. Like, so they've made us like her, and then last season there was that scene that everybody was like, what was this scene? And I was like, ooh, I think I know what they're doing. Where, like, she walked up to Lan while he was peeing, and I was like, okay, they're just showing that there's boundaries, and she isn't respecting them. And here, this is a big boundary. This is a really big boundary. Maxim does not like having the bond on all the time, or, like, unmasked all the time. And they had an agreement, and she is breaking their agreement right now. The other thing about this that's interesting is one of his main problems right now is because the bond is unmasked, he can feel that she is, as he puts it, not feeling anything, or feels nothing about Ivan's death. Now, I don't believe that's true for a second. She's very, very sad. But she is doing what Rand does later, is what I believe is happening here. She is making herself hard. She must be hard. She is Darth Alana right now. And I think that is interesting, because obviously that is very unhealthy when Rand does it, and it fucks a bunch of shit up once Rand turns to that point. I think that's what we're seeing. This is part of her devolution, and it's foreshadowing she's going to do something to Rand, and then it's like going to be part of Rand's devolution. Like, it's just, this is a domino falling, I think is what we're seeing here. It's made clear in this scene that it is a mystery why they're here. Maxim believes that they should be out looking for and trying to kill Liandrin instead of here in the Two Rivers. Now, for book readers, we know that the reason that Alanna is in the Two Rivers at this point is because she's here with Verin. And they're just here searching for channelers. That's it. They probably maybe had, I bet you Verin had ulterior motives, but that's the reason that everybody who is not Verin thinks that they're here for. So they're making this a mystery in the show, and I have no theories. Literally none. So I want to know what your theories are. Let me know in the comments. Fael is flirting with Perrin, and I'm swooning because I love it. Their romance, obviously, like, Fael is a strong flavor. She is, she's a character that people love or people hate. And she's a character that I both love and hate at different times in the books. I love the way her and Perrin love each other. When they're good, they're so fucking good. Like, of the romances in the books, theirs, I think, is the only one that makes me cry. Multiple times in this book, like the book that this season is based on, at least I could think of 3 moments that I cry during their specific relationship. And when it's good, it's so fucking good. And I'm hoping that the show will just sort of eschew some of the bad, because there's like, I don't even mean, like, we got to leave some of the bad in the story, just in general, just because things can't be hunky-dory, but some of the bad that goes with Fael is based on weird, outdated gender tropes, and some of them are based on things that we can't really do in the show. Because one of the problems that a lot of people have with Fael is that they think of her as being super jealous. You know why they think of her as super jealous? Because fucking Verin, fucking Perrin, sorry, their names rhyme, I never noticed that until just now. Perrin is sniffing her all the fucking time and reading her emotions, and not telling her that he's reading her emotions, but reacting to them like they're her actions. Everybody has feelings all the time, and we don't act on them. And if everybody was constantly calling me out for the emotions that I have, it's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair the way that she gets judged for her emotions that she doesn't act on. Not only does she not act on them, but he reacts to her emotions, and she doesn't know that he's reacting to her emotions. So as far as she knows, he's just being super sketch. Like, okay, while this is on, I'm just going to go on this rant. There's a scene from the books, for example, when her and so Fael and Perrin go to Rand's room, and Berylane comes barreling out of the room. She's terrified, and she runs past them, but she's wearing a very low-cut dress, showing lots and lots of formidable bosom, and she runs past them. And Perrin, so I'm trying to think whose perspective to tell first. I'll tell Perrin's first. Perrin, as she comes out, because he can smell emotions, sees her run by and thinks, oh my god, she smells terrified, because it's just like coming off of her in waves. And he turns and follows her with his head, like just, and he says, she smells, and like doesn't finish his thought that she smells terrified. So first of all, Fael, no idea that he can smell emotion. She has no idea. What Fael just saw was a half-naked woman come running out of her room. The man that she's in love with turn and like full body follow her with his eyes, and then comment on what she smells like. Tell me, like, and then he reacts to Fael's, like, taking some, like, basically reacting to that like anybody would. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck was that? Basically, and he reacts like she's insane. And then everybody who reads it, because you're in Perrin's perspective, especially if you're not thinking out the outside, you think, yeah, she's unreasonable. No, she's not. That was a normal reaction that she just had, because if you're out with somebody, like you're in a romantic relationship with somebody, they should not be doing that shit. That's gross. Nobody should be doing that shit. Like, okay, what it looked like he was doing was ogling a woman who was terrified. And you shouldn't do that. That's gross. But like leering at her is what it looked like he was doing from her perspective. But you really don't leer at other women when you're with the woman you're with. Like that. Anyway, all this to say, it's not fair. A lot of the judgment on Fael is not fair because we're seeing her from Perrin's perspective, and Perrin is seeing things that he's not telling her he's seeing, and is reacting to things that he's not telling her he's reacting to. He's an empath, and he hasn't told her he's an empath. To be fair to Perrin, I guess the whole rant. To be fair to Perrin, I don't think he's realized that he's an empath by the end of the books. So that's a whole thing. But whatever. Okay. All that to say, I'm very excited to see this meet cute. It was a long rant. Don't know if it's going to make it in the video. Wow. Let's move on to the next point. I can't believe they did the Mandarb thing. It's so good. It's so funny. It's one of the funnier moments in the books with Fael. My favorite Fael moment is when she finds out that the horn's not only been found, but somebody has blown it already. And she's just like, what the fuck? Why did you not tell me? I'm literally following you in order to find the horn. And you, damn it. Like, it's just one of the funniest moments. I don't think we'll get that exact moment, but I do, well, we might. We might still, because, like, she asks him, like, I'm hunting for the horn. And he's like, yeah, I'm familiar, because that's literally what I did for the entire previous season. And then, I found it and gave it to my friend who blew it. Like, it's a whole thing. So, I don't know. I loved this. This is right out of the books. It's great. Matt, being an idiot. He was like, how do you know about my memories? And he's been telling everybody. And he doesn't realize, I guess, that people talk to each other. I don't know. But I think I might have said this in my reaction, but I don't remember. So I never put this together. And I wonder if this was like the reason the show decided to pair them up, or if it was just a case of, a byproduct of them being forced to by virtue of Barney leaving so they needed to get Matt in the correct place, and Min was the best vehicle to do that. I don't know. But I never put together how their powers mirror each other. His memories that he did not want force him to see the past, and her visions that she does not want force her to see the future. And, like, granted, his memories do give him power. They do give him an advantage, and hers don't necessarily. So, but I just think it's really cool that their powers mirror each other, and I'm very curious to see what the show does with that. Then we get the shot, and it's the red door and the hanging, and so we know that this is not an Easter egg. And so, yeah, when is he going to go to Finland? Is it going to be in Tanchico, or is he going to go to Roydian or somewhere else? I don't know. I just know that we're getting some version of it, and I'm just... The other thought I had while watching this, and I know that this is just by virtue of the fact that we have this visual medium now, and we need time to process things that they're seeing, and we need to see people react to things. Like, it's part of the visual storytelling, but they have Min wandering around the tower trying to see things and have visions, and if every time she has a vision, she does that, she's not going to be a very good spy. Like, she takes a step back and is like, which she's done every time I've seen her have a vision on the show. So you need to work on your poker face, girl. Glad. Being a douche. He's being a white knight here. He's coming to a woman's defense, and she doesn't ask for his help, and she doesn't need it. She even says here that she doesn't need it, but he's still, like, gonna... And, like, look, I know that sometimes you, like, see somebody who might need help, and they maybe don't have a way to ask you, and I get it. But it's just... It's very frustrating, and he doesn't seem to concern himself with what Min wants at all. He just, like, walks in, I'm gonna be a wall, that is a fragile female, she's just a little egg, and I must protect the woman's. Like, it's just, he's being a douche, and it's worse next time. So, on the surface, this is actually kind of a politically savvy move that Siuan is doing here, because, first of all, it's kind of weird that the Reds are not out there trying to catch Mazrim Taim. That's literally their job. There is a false dragon, a man who can channel. It's like two things, and that's the Reds' job. It's weird that they're not doing this. So, yeah, sending them on a mission that is in keeping with the mission of their Ajah, it actually is very respectful to them, but she's getting rid of 8 potentially very, very powerful Reds, like the most powerful Reds, the highest, and then she's going to choose people. But it's not. Like, this is... Siuan, I think, is very good at some things. She's actually a very good read of character, but she has a bad read on Sutama here. I have a feeling that she is hoping that Sutama will take Elaida with her. But obviously, Sutama does not like Elaida. That's not going to happen. And so what's going to end up happening is that it's going to leave a power vacuum. And someone's going to fill that power vacuum, and it's not going to be good for our girl. Pretty sure this is how Galena becomes head of the Red Ajah. And yeah, this is again Elaida just bad reads. Like, she has a good read in that she probably can guess that Galena would like the power, but a bad read in putting that in front of Galena, because this is a bad choice. It's a very, very, very bad choice. So I think so far in these 3 episodes, like, this is the first time I had a moment of, ooh, I feel like I'm missing a scene. Like, it's just, every scene so far has felt natural and like it follows on the previous scene. I don't feel like I'm missing anything. There's a couple of scenes that I wished would have lasted longer, but I mean, I just wish everything would last longer with the show, to be honest. But for the most part, I haven't felt like I was just thrown into something, like there was a jump, whereas this felt like a jump. I felt like I needed a scene of Perrin in the inn, maybe, and then hearing that people were leaving and going, wait, why are they leaving, and then coming out and asking this question or something, just because it just comes out of nowhere. I don't know, like, I don't know why he just suddenly walked out. I don't know why everybody's leaving at the same time. I don't know, it feels really, really, really sudden. So we see Perrin's leadership in action here, and it's very close to like what, you know, in the books happens, except that in the books he does this out while walking, like going from house to house, right? And he gives this basically the same advice that everybody gathers in basically in the Two Rivers. Again, though, it feels sudden. This is the only, like, it's a weird complaint, I know, but it's a very, very small one. But I feel like if we had seen his shock inside, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think how I would fix it, because this is the one thing I would be like, he comes out and it seems sudden, and then this feels like, I don't know where, like, everything he's saying makes sense. It's logical. It's the same reasoning as in the books. And it's a very logical and sane and sound reasoning. But I'd seen his shock inside the wine spring. It, like, why would everybody go home? No, we're much safer here or something. And then going out and explaining it, it would have just, I don't know, would have given some foundation to this, because I don't know where these thoughts are coming from. They're logical thoughts, so I guess that's where they're coming from. But I don't know. It's a dumb complaint, because it's a very small complaint. But this just felt very sudden. Tell me, as a book fan, that you did not see him hitting this thing with a stick and immediately, like, scream like a little girl, because you know what's coming. There's no way they would do this to us. Like, they would show this to us and then not let us actually see it. Like, even last episode where he touched the swords, I was like, oh, and then they didn't do it, and then I was like, okay, fine, they're just gonna whatever, but then they wouldn't do it after this. Like, it's so good. I got real mad when I was first watching this, when he puts that stick down, because I was just like, no, you can't put the quarterstaff in his hand and then not have him hit people with it. He has to hit people with it. Like, he's just, don't put the stick down, you gotta hit some boys in the head with it. It's not fair. I was so mad that I don't think I was even noticing the conversation that they were having, because I was just like, fuck. I call this clip literally Galad Douche 2. Okay, this is not how you do it. Nynaeve specifically says, I don't need your help, and he just ignores her. I said step back, and then he said step back. Like, yeah, she says, I don't need your help, and he doesn't care. He's here to protect the women, whether they want it or not. Why does that keep coming up? It's not a good attitude to have. Just don't like that. It's just so annoying and aggressive, and it makes everything really satisfying, what's about to happen, really satisfying. It does make me feel bad for Book Galad. I do, because Book Galad is not this kind of a douche. He's really not. Book Galad has his flaws, but they're not these flaws. These are very different flaws. And these are very unlikable flaws. They're very unsympathetic flaws. I just want to, Book Galad, it's okay. It's okay, honey. I still love you. Oh, man. Even on a rewatch, like, when I was watching this for the third time, like when I was taking my notes, okay, because a little peek behind the curtain. I watch once, like, for a reaction, basically. That's my first watching, is when I do the reaction. And then the second watching is just to watch the show, because I know when you do reactions, sometimes, like, I miss things because I'm talking or whatever, and I know that people get real pissed off, but that's literally what a reaction is. Like, I'm supposed to be saying what I'm thinking, so whatever. And then the third watch for this, like, show is when I take my notes all 3 times. Like, even just now, I'm looking down, I got goosebumps. Like, this is just such a good moment. It's very different from the books. Well, no, I mean, the actual fight, I don't know if it's different. Like, it's just cool, really cool seeing Matt be this awesome. But they serve different functions. Like in the books, the Dragon Reborn is the first time we get Matt POV. It's the first time Matt becomes three-dimensional. Like prior to this, I think I talked about this in a previous video, but he's just like, there's Rand, who we get inside his head, Perrin, and we get inside his head, and then there's their friend Matt. And it's like, why do you like Matt? He's kind of an idiot. He's also kind of a dick to Rand. And then in the Dragon Reborn, you suddenly get in his perspective, and you're like, oh, that's why he's their friend. Because he's actually a good guy who just tries to act like he's a player or whatever, but he will always be there for his friends, and he's incredibly loyal and whatever. And this moment in the books is part of just getting to know him and getting to know the kind of guy he is, the kind of guy who will just throw himself into a situation just because and not back down, even though like in the books he's like basically he's emaciated and really thin, and you can't really do that in the show because obviously you can't ask an actor like this. He's not Christian Bale. We're not going to make everybody become emaciated just for one fight scene. That's ridiculous. But so this, this is also just more realistic. But in the books, it is part of like this very rapid getting to know Matt sequence that we have. Whereas we already know, and like Matt in the show already feels three-dimensional. So this is more in the show of like a, hey, you saw him be awesome at the end of last season. This is how awesome he is. It's like an affirmation of who he is. And it's just really, really cool. And I love it. It's also just really satisfying because Galad and Gowan were such douches that it's really, really satisfying to see them get hit in the head. Like Gowan gets hit in the head, which is great because Gowan should always be hit in the head. It's just because I really, really, really fucking hate Gowan. I know I talked about this in my reaction, but every time they cut to Nynaeve's face, you can see the pride, and then she like tries to steal herself a little bit, but it's so, I loved it every single time. Like, I'm only showing one here, but they just kept cutting to her face, and she was like, that's my boy. That's the Two Rivers for you. That's my boy. I should note, actually, yes, that's another big difference. In the books, he knows how to fight with a quarterstaff because his dad taught him. Here, he knows how to fight with a quarterstaff because he has the memories of 1,000 heroes in his head, or I guess the memories of his lives, like living his lives as a hero in his head. So he has their fighting skill, like his past lives. So it's different there too. Our first look at Perrin working the forge. In season 1, we knew that he was a blacksmith, I'm pretty sure, but we saw Layla, I think, work the forge. I don't think we ever saw him work it. I think we saw it in a dream, but I don't think we ever actually saw him working the forge. Is this going to be the version of that scene from The Dragon Reborn, the one that I really like that goes on forever, and about him, like, just making, I think it's a barrel stave or something, whatever that he makes in The Dragon, I don't know, I love that scene. I don't really know why I love it, but it's this beautiful moment of peace, of watching Perrin doing something that makes him feel calm and confident and feel like he knows who he is. I love it. Is this it? I want more of it if it is, but okay, I have a feeling this is it. And it does what that scene, what I was hoping from that scene. Like, if we got that scene here, what I was hoping would be that Fael would come and see him and get smitten. Now, I think she's already a little bit smitten, but yeah, I think that's what we're seeing here. I still would like more, though. I want to see Perrin blacksmith forging more. But like I said, it does what the scene, what I wanted from that scene, which is like, I mean, you saw that look. That's a smitten kitten right there. Okay, he asks for her real name, and she says Fael. This is a change from the books, if that's actually her birth, or her, I don't know her birth name. Because in the books, her birth name, like the name she was born with, is Zareen Bashir. And then her father apparently calls her Fael sometimes, but she chooses the name Mandarb as her hunter's name. And then when she finds out that, oh, it's the name of, like, your friend's horse, okay, fine, I'll switch to this name that my father called me, Fael. And then Perrin refuses to call her Fael until he suddenly says it, like, in a moment where he's realizing, like, I think it's when he thinks that she might be dead or something. It's something with the hedgehog trap. But it's a moment where you, like, it becomes fully confirmed that he is in love with her, is when he finally calls her by her chosen name. I think they might avoid doing that just because we now have this knowledge and understanding about things like dead naming people. And so having him constantly calling her a name that she doesn't want to be called would definitely rub a lot of people the wrong way. And it is very, very disrespectful. And it's not the only time that happens in the books. There's a whole thing with Matt and a certain character who refuses to use his name. So yeah, I think that they might just make Fael her name, which is fine. We don't need that part of the story. And nobody ever talks about Fael and calls her Verin. So this is cool. Nynaeve looks at the boats and says, oh my god, is there really no other way to get there, with this look of absolute panic on her face. And I caught this on a rewatch. I don't think I caught it the first time, but it just made me laugh so hard because we don't get to see they're traveling from Falma to Tarval, and I'm just realizing we didn't get to see that. Avienda was on a boat. I guess Bane and Chiad were on a boat. We didn't get to see the IO reactions to large bodies of water. Interesting. Okay, but whatever. What we do know, though, from the books is that of our characters, Nynaeve is the only one who gets really, really seasick. And so it just made me laugh. I don't know if that's what they're doing here, but I'm assuming that it is. I'm assuming this is a little Easter egg, although we might actually get to see them on a boat. Rafe did mention the sea folk. And there was that still of that dude with, that dude in Tanchico who might have been a sea folk. Ooh, okay, we might actually spend some time in the boat. I'm sorry, you're getting live thoughts and live whatever. But yes, so we might actually get to see some seasick Nynaeve. I'm going to feel so bad for you. Oh. So I think we're meant to think that this is a gray man for half a second, but of course it is Min. She's following them. And I think this is because of, the vision that she saw with Matt, and she is going to try and protect him. I think she has a real soft spot for Matt. And yeah, that makes sense. So that is why Matt is going to be there. And I think that Matt, we know why Matt is going to be there. He's going to be there because he's going with Nynaeve. And I think Min is going there to be with Matt. Although they're going to figure out that she's there. Boats aren't that big. If she gets on the same boat as them, they're immediately going to know that she's there. So, okay, we get the second half of this death ritual. And as you saw there, there's these flashes she's having to her memories. We see her with her baby. I think we are going to get the flashback scene that a lot of us theorized after seeing that still of the woman who had clearly just given birth in bloody clothes standing under a statue of somebody wearing a male character, looking like they were wearing what was looking like a Damani collar and the Soldan bracelet. So yeah, I think that's what we're getting here. And this is we're seeing some of the horrifying past that Liandrin came in from, because even the hints in this scene, there are claw marks on the wall. That is, no, Liandrin has a horrifying and tragic backstory. Also, just going to say, I think Siuan said that Liandrin liking Nynaeve was a weakness, and I do think that is correct, but I think Nynaeve actually knows Liandrin better than that and has recognized that one of her big weaknesses is her love for her son. It made her vulnerable. And it's the reason that they know where she is. And it's not even just the reason that they're going to know that she was in Tanchico, but she came to this house specifically so that she could perform this death ritual. She didn't have to go to this house. They could have gone anywhere. But, probably not anywhere, but there were other places that they could go. But she's gone to a place where she can be located because of her weakness. And I just think that is kind of cool. I'm reading into it, I'm predicting things, but I think that it is, again, adding competence to the Nynaeve Detective Agency. For all the things I missed, I'm proud of myself for this. I immediately was the minute we walked in here, I was like, where's Moggy? Where's Moggy? There she is. I spotted her immediately. That's her over on the right. And of course we get that revealed later when she leaves the room. So yeah, she's pretending to be a servant, and my book reader brain caught it. So this is confirmation that we were all right about this. I don't know anybody that was arguing against this, but the theory that a lot of people had was that the bracelet there was the main thing that Naomi was supposed to get, and then they were going to come to Tanchico to try and get the other half of it, because it's a two-piece, I guess, Terangriel. It's an idom for a man. In the fandom, we call them sad bracelets. So yeah, they are on a fetch quest, and we were all right about that. The question, though, that remains then is who sent them to get it? Who told them that it was there and that they needed to get it? I don't think that Lanfear would do this, because Lanfear would not want Rand, or lose Theron, whatever she's thinking of him as. She would not want him to be collared. It's obviously not Moggy, because A, they don't recognize Moggy, although the Forsaken can probably disguise themselves. But Moggy is hiding here. And my assumption then is that Moggy is hiding here in order to find out what their plan is. Like even that little satisfied look she has as she leaves the room, softly, softly from the shadows, says to me that, oh, that she has fulfilled her purpose. Like her reason for hiding here was to figure this out. She's figured it out. Like, or probably trying to figure out more. Like she'll be following as they try to find the other half. So she's not leaving or anything. But so that's 2 down. My guess as to whose plan this is Semirhage, just because Semirhage, I mean, if you read the books, you know. So that's my guess. How about you? So this, I have to give credit to Dana Zool. You'll see her in the comments of my video. She's one of my mods. She saw this video before it has gone live for everybody, and she left a comment that basically began, squee! And I was like, what? What is she talking about? And so I'm giving her credit because I did not catch this, but, oh, this is very, very exciting. In this shot, we see something very important, and I'm going to pause when we come around and point it out to you because I also am squeeing. Look, here it comes. That's the dream ring. That's the actual dream ring. It's not a sketch of the dream ring. It's the actual dream ring. Now, again, earlier in this video, you're going to hear me talk like, I hope that they didn't take it with them. I'm hoping that Verin was pointing it out. I think maybe that still could be the case. Verin was pointing out that this was very, very important. Making sure they have notes on it as they go. So, like, she drew it twice. Don't know why. But it also could be the show making sure it's highlighted for us because that is the dream ring right here on the table. That's also a dream torograph, but that's a dream ring! All right, there you have it. All my, well, not all, but most of my book nerdy thoughts about episode 3 of season 3 of The Wheel of Time. Let me know yours. What are your theories, specifically the ones I'm most curious about? Who is sent them after the domination battle? Or maybe did they do the research on their own? That actually didn't even occur to me until just now. That wasn't in my notes. Did like the brown, like the evil browns, just like, ooh, we need to, like, with their research figure this out somehow? Or was it like a mission that they were sent on by Forsaken that we as yet do not know or have not met? And why are Alana and Maxim, and how are Alana and Maxim in the Two Rivers? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. And of course, any other thoughts you have in the comments below. And if you like my content and you want to support me, I also have a Patreon that is linked in the description below. Thank you so, so much to my patrons. Could not do this without you, so thank you so much. And with that, I'm going to end this here. So please like, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.